Okay, so in season 2, episode 11 of Fire Away, I'm still wearing my holiday hat because it was a focus on holidays in the workplace, which I could spend probably 2 hours talking about. But what I want to talk about today in my brief opportunity to fire away is the fact that we often refer to the holiday season as the most wonderful time of the year. And it can be great. It's a great time to have fun with your colleagues, to relax. It should be filled with good cheer and goodwill. And yet, the holidays in the workplace bring with them a whole lot of complications and controversies. Start with a very basic question. We talked about this in season 2, episode 11, where I had Brian Daly and Lisa Kay join me. What do you even call this time of year? Historically, it was Christmas, and the kids had a Christmas break from school, and you walked through the mall listening to Christmas carols, and Santa came and brought gifts. Now, in the age of inclusivity and political correctness, it's supposed to be the holidays, although of course we now get a backlash from people who think that's just a politically correct way of saying Christmas, and people get their backs up about that. We can't even agree on what to call this time of year. And then, of course, you have to acknowledge the fact that in the workplace, it depends where you are, but in most cases, you will have a multicultural workforce comprised of people of different backgrounds, and it's important to respect and acknowledge those backgrounds. And I know personally, I will not be offended if someone wishes me a Merry Christmas if they don't know what holiday I celebrate. But it also occurs to me that particularly in a multicultural city like Toronto, it is a little ethnocentric to assume that everyone celebrates the same holiday that you do. So I encourage our employer clients to make sure that they acknowledge and respect all the different backgrounds and traditions in their workplace, and the same way that we do at home. And in my home in particular, not only do I have a multicultural workforce, I have a multicultural family, and we acknowledge and respect different backgrounds. And it's made for a really fun holiday season because we often combine Christmas and Hanukkah in our case. And it's not only respectful, it's actually enjoyable to acknowledge both. And that's one of the important points that I often make to our clients, is that people get frustrated by this notion that and at the same time, when there is a Christmas party, you may have a small segment of your workforce that basically feel like second-class citizens because their holidays are not acknowledged or respected. And just to make matters worse, they don't have statutory holidays. So if they want to take time off to observe their holidays, they have to ask for vacation days or other ways time off. And there is a resentment there because they look at their Christian colleagues who automatically have Christmas Day and usually Boxing Day as well as Easter Day. So there's an issue there as well. I've seen lots of efforts to promote inclusiveness that have failed. I've seen quote unquote holiday parties where you arrive and you have Christmas music in the background, Christmas decorations, the kids are doing Christmas crafts, you're served a traditional Christmas meal, and then Santa comes and gives out Christmas gifts to the kids, in which case it really is a Christmas party in all but name. And again, even though you tried to call it a holiday party, you've left your staff, or at least some of them, feeling like second-class citizens. And of course, the worst holiday fail I've ever seen was the Hanukkah ham, which I bought at Walmart. And Rob, I don't know if you have that. There we go. As we often say, and we said this with Lisa and Brian during season 2, episode 11 of Fire Away, if you're going to have an inclusive holiday party, that doesn't just mean acknowledging other parties or other traditions. You should be speaking to your staff, understanding their traditions, understanding what's not a part of their tradition. So Hanukkah ham is obviously not a very good idea to acknowledge a Jewish holiday. So in terms of where do you go from here, what should employers be doing at this holiday time? First of all, promote an inclusive workplace and inclusive workplace celebration. So acknowledge all the different backgrounds in your workplace, and don't blindly insist on having a Christmas party just because that's what you've always done. Second point, talk to your staff. If you have people from different backgrounds, don't point them out in front of a large crowd. Don't call them out in front of everyone else, but talk to them politely, respectfully, and privately, so you can understand what would make them feel as though their traditions were being acknowledged and respected and incorporated into your holiday traditions. At the same time, don't be inclusive just for the sake of being politically correct. If you work in an area that is entirely mono-denominational, if everyone celebrates Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or whatever the case may be, you don't need to acknowledge religions or backgrounds that aren't a part of your organization. So don't do it for the sake of doing it. Do it for the sake of being meaningful. But take the opportunity to make this a warm and festive celebration for everyone, make it inclusive, and make sure that everyone, we talked in season 2, episode 11 about holiday parties. That's a whole other issue, but make sure that you as an organization are not opening yourselves up to liability as you have the holiday party. At the same time, don't scrap it, because frankly, from what I see, and I'm sure from what everyone who's watching, particularly those in HR, see, a holiday party is one of the very few times where people in your workplace might have the opportunity to socialize, to engage in an environment that is totally different than the day-to-day workplace. So it's a great opportunity that shouldn't be gotten rid of, but it should be adapted to today's reality. And the last challenge I'll mention, and I'll end with a question. I've talked about what employers should do to make it inclusive. The bigger question that I've talked about in the media and in print is what should the government be doing? And specifically, consider the fact that in every jurisdiction in Canada, we have statutory holidays that are based upon Christian holidays. In other words, Christmas and Easter, and then perhaps Boxing Day, I suppose you could argue. Consider the fact that all of our human rights legislation says that lost my notes there. All of our human rights legislation says that there should be no differential treatment on the basis of religion. So why is it that one religious group has 2 of its holidays statutorily protected and no other religious group does? I think the answer as to why is because that's the way it's always been. And if we were going to design a system now, we probably wouldn't have statutory holidays based upon Christmas and Easter. But that's what we have. That's the situation that exists. The reality is that everyone should have an equal opportunity to observe their holidays. So how do we fix this issue? One option is to replace Christmas Day and Easter with 2 floating holidays. But there are problems with that as well, and I've talked about that in other contexts. I won't get into it now. So I'll end with a question, which is with an invitation, I suppose. If you have suggestions for how to remedy this situation, then feel free to email me and let me know, because I would love to hear them, because I think this will be a discussion we'll be having more and more going forward. But I will end by saying that in the meantime, no matter how you celebrate or what you celebrate, I hope that everyone enjoys a joyful and relaxing holiday season with their family and their friends. And I want to wish everyone a very happy and healthy New Year. And with that said, I will remove my hat because it's getting extremely hot in here. And I will conclude my rant for this month. That's my 2 cents worth, and you got it here for free.